honor. If you need it to find, you don't have it. Those are the words that my candidate lives by. The man that I would choose to lead this country is Ron Swanson. I believe the current candidates lack integrity and use their position for personal gain. We look to a leader for guidance, and that is how we should choose our next president. Unfortunately, the ones we've seen only use the power that we give them to rule over us. The reason I would gladly nominate Ron Swanson is because he loves the United States, and there is no greater country to him. He believes in small government so that the people can prosper, without the government setting regulations that halts that progress. Ron is a natural leader. Others look to him for guidance, and because of his morals, he leads them down a respectable path. There is no country that Ron loves more than the United States. The times that he does travel abroad, he is not impressed with the monuments of other countries. For example, he looks at Big Ben when he travels to London and says, "Oh, it's just a clock." Like we don't have those in America. There are many times when he says that the only country that matters is America, and that the greatest thing to have happened to this planet happened on July 4th, 1776. If we don't have a president that looks after his country, that puts his nation first, why should they run for office? The founding fathers fought to create a new nation where all citizens have equal rights, and to solidify that idea, they created a constitution for us to follow. Each amendment that was added to the Constitution is protected by another amendment so that tyranny isn't allowed to exist. For example, if the government were to try to take your right to freedom of speech, the Second Amendment allows for the people of this nation to arm themselves against that tyranny. Oppressive government is exactly why government should have limited control and should not be able to regulate everything. Ron Swanson is a huge advocate for small government. He uses his position as the director of the Parks Department to slow government down as much as he can. He does this to achieve his goals of slowly destroying the government from the inside out. Without so many regulations, the free market could grow and become very competitive, inviting new creations and new services into the world. This would grow the economy, create more employment opportunities, while at the same time advancing the nations towards a better future. Businesses that get massive and buy out the competition, only to fail, rely on the government for a bailout, as they may be the only ones that can provide that service, such as airlines. Since regulations are established, it forces new businesses to keep up with all those rules to stay open, making it much harder for new companies to succeed, while the failed companies receive money from the government to continue their unsuccessful business. That money comes from our tax dollars. I don't agree with trying to keep a dying business alive, and neither does Ron Swanson, especially knowing that the same thing happened before the revolution that created this great nation. Ron is a great leader. He keeps his employees in the Parks Department in line. By that, I mean he keeps them doing the worst possible job they can. There are some that seem so incompetent, but they remain there in the department because Ron's goal to minimize the government. After creating as much chaos as possible within that department, he leaves the government position for a place in the private sector. He creates his own business to acquire wealth through honest work. Continuing with his leadership style, his company becomes very prosperous. It is because of that type of leadership that I would vote for him if he was on the ballot. His leadership skills are also seen when he teaches a group of young scouts how to survive in the wild. He teaches them lessons that would allow them to grow into fine young men. Ron Swanson is a man to look up to because of his ideals and morals. Under a Swanson and Nope administration, I am sure that the nation would prosper in ways that no one has ever seen. Seeing how Leslie is, I'm certain that her attention to detail would assist Ron with his goals and bring out the best in the nation. Ron would definitely use his seat to dismantle the government and leave the bare minimum to run the country. I believe his love of this country and his leadership styles would make him an excellent president. Since this is just fantasy, I tend to research candidates and look at the ideals that I most agree with. I urge you to do the same so that we don't end up from the greatest country ever to a country like Venezuela. To quote Ron Swanson one more time, I am not one for speeches. So, goodbye.